Hello, everyone. Pat Down MMA back with another DWCS breakdown. Week 6 action. The main event now officially of Week 6 in Aaron Tau versus Elijah Smith. Bantamweight fight. Really good action here between two solid bantamweight prospects. Going to be kicking it off with Aaron Tau. So, New Zealand's Aaron Tau, he's actually a protege of Dan Hooker. He actually won the scholarship that Dan Hooker was offering to come train at his gym, and he's been training at Dan Hooker's gym and recently has went over and started training at City Kickboxing with some of those top guys. So he has the right people around him for his career for sure. He fought in XFC, which is a promotion that holds events in the Australian and New Zealand area. He's very strong, but he's very small for 135. Tao is just very little, but he makes up for it with any strength he has. He has a very stiff jab and some really solid leg kicks. He's very slow and calculated. He kind of just stalks very slowly, very patiently with low volume until he hurts his opponent or he can find something he can take advantage of, and then he just starts to swarm. And he's very dangerous when he unleashes. It's just sometimes he doesn't unleash for a bit and he's losing the moments in the fight until he unleashes, but everything changes once he does finally just let his hands go. He does like to showboat a little bit in there. He likes to show off his chin. He'll get hit sometimes and kind of just, show it off and like make fun of the person hitting him. He has that cocky style to him. He'll come in walking forward with his hands down just to prove a point. Like he's very cocky in there. Tao has some massive knees. He's finished his last two fights with those knees, and they are his most devastating weapon, in my opinion. Just a fight ender, just something that can change a fight completely. His knees up the middle are nasty. And he has some really solid power in his punches, but I feel like his finishes don't come from these one punch knockout shots. It's more array of punches or those knees I just mentioned that are just so devastating. Tao is very composed in the pocket, but he does get hit. He keeps his chin up, so he'll get hit in that pocket a little bit, but he'll usually eat it no problem. He's great at capitalizing off mistakes. Like one of the things that he's great at is great at catching kicks. The way he catches kicks is incredible. Anytime someone throws a body kick, it's like he's catching it, and then he likes to use those moments to pick someone up and slam them. That's his big thing. He loves the big slams. Anytime he gets a chance to slam someone, he will be slamming someone on their head, no problem. He just loves to do it. He does have some pretty subpar footwork. That's one thing I noticed is just he doesn't cut off angles. He's not moving side to side, moving back and forth. He's kind of just slowly plodding forward, just no real movement in his feet. He's very basic, very subpar footwork. Part of the reason why he does get hit a lot, he keeps his chin up when he comes forward, but he does it on purpose. So I don't know if that's necessarily a negative or that's just something that, is part of his style, you could say. He has really good head movement. He actually is good at evading shots. He can bounce in and out of the way with his head. It's just he doesn't use his feet with his head. They don't really coincide. It's just the head movement. On the ground, he has some pretty solid control on top. Those big slams are really what just gets his fights to the ground when he does get to the ground or when he drops someone. And he has just some really solid ground and pound elbows. He's just constantly laying them down onto people and not giving them any space to breathe, really, when they're on the ground. His takedown defense is also good in turn. He can defend takedowns and he will defend takedowns. He also does have some submissions. I haven't been able to see them, but in his amateur fights, he did win a couple of those by submission. So Tao seemingly does have submissions on the ground. Moving on to Elijah Smith now. So Elijah Smith is the son of former UFC fighter Gilbert Smith. He's 21 years old. And this is his fifth fight in the past year. So he is ridiculously young and ridiculously active. He's very athletic. He likes to talk in the cage a lot. So him and Tao, I could guarantee, are going to be going back and forth a little bit in there. I'd be shocked if both these guys just kept their mouth shut for the entire 15 minutes. So I could definitely see them using their mouth to their advantage, I guess you could say, because Dana loves that stuff. He has very fast hands, very good timing, just very technical on the feet with some very sharp punches. I like Elijah Smith's striking a lot. He keeps it mostly basic, but he does have very flashy weapons and he can use them every once in a while. And you will see him mix those in occasionally where he's mostly just using his one twos, his kicks, just keep in his range, doing his thing, and then you'll see him throw a flying knee out of nowhere. And then he just doesn't throw one for the rest of the fight. He doesn't like to use his flashy weapons often, but when he does, they're effective. He works very well at range. His just incredible range management. The fight is usually taking place at the range he wants it to take place at. And he is a bigger bantamweight, so that will be a big tool for this fight specifically. He has amazing footwork and is just constantly moving and constantly in and out and just won't stay in one place for more than a second. He's just always bouncing back and forth. And he does switch stances and he can fight in both stances. He switches stances fluently, just within motion, just switching stances, and he can fire off shots while switching stances. His switch stance is very effective. So for some of the negatives of Elijah Smith's striking game, he does eat some leg kicks and he can be susceptible to counters. I noticed that he does slow down a bit as the fight goes on. In his fight with Reyes Cortez, which is his only loss, he was knocked out in the third round of a pretty close fight. I would say that that fight was still completely up in the air in terms of who was winning, but you could tell he started to slow down as it went on. And then out of nowhere, Reyes Cortez just hit him with a massive right hand and just put him down. And that was it. I think that was more because he started to slow down than it was because his chin is like shot, but he did go to decision right after that loss and he looked completely fine in it. So maybe that's something he went and worked on right away. So I'm hoping that is the case. He does keep his hands a bit low sometimes and he will pay for it. He'll eat a shot or two before he raises his hands back up. He's started to raise them more in recent fights, but you'll see there is moments where he'll drop them and then need to raise them again because he gets hit. He will be caught off misses sometimes. That's one thing that is repetitive in his game. When he misses, he will be caught off that miss. He leaves himself open to a counter, and he will be countered for sure. Smith is very unfazed by a lot of things that are happening inside the cage, and that's something you need to stay focused. In the clinch, Smith has some really solid body knees, but his takedowns, his wrestling is really another layer of his game that's very solid. He has some very clean takedowns and very strong top control. He has dominated people on the ground and won fights with his wrestling exclusively. He has some really solid takedown defense himself and just some very slick back takes. I mean, he just slides onto guys' backs. Very diverse submission arsenal. He can kind of choke you out. He has Kimuras, he has triangles, he has arm bars. He has a couple submissions in his arsenal. He hasn't used them all the time, but I've seen him threaten them before. You can tell that it is something he will use in a fight if he needs to. Great ground and pound elbows, just like Tau. Both these guys have really solid ground and pound elbows. I'd actually be interested to see who has the better ground and pound elbows between these two. This fight is an absolute banger. I'm actually very excited because I think both of these guys would love to stay on the feet and they'll fight for most of this fight at least. I know both of these guys do have a little bit of wrestling and there may be a little bit in this fight, but I think this fight will be mostly be contested on the feet and the stand up, and I think it's going to be a banger for as long as it lasts. I actually do think Elijah Smith will be able to use his range, keep his range, and avoid the big shots of Tau, but Tau is fairly similar to the guy in Reyes Cortez that did beat Elijah Smith, so something similar could happen in this fight. I just trust Elijah Smith. He's young. He's going to keep developing, and like I said, fifth fight in a year. Like he's been active. He's been committed to this sport. I think Elijah Smith will have what it takes to win this fight. I think he'll win it by decision. I don't think he'll be able to finish Tau. He does have some power, but Tau is the one that has more finishing upside in this fight, in my opinion. And Smith, I think, wins a 15-minute decision. I think he showcases his striking. I think he showcases his wrestling. I could see it being 2-1. I could see it being 3-0. But I think Smith wins a decision here based on the fact that he has a little bit more weapons on the feet and just the bigger guy in general. I wanted to thank everyone for coming on for my 10th episode now is this of DWCS breakdowns. Thank you so much, everyone. I can't believe I actually got to episode 10. This has been a lot more successful than I could have imagined. So like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed, and catch you guys in the next one.